What?
Subscribe.
We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
I'm just saying, you gotta remind people.
Subscribe right now.
Subscribe.
Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Probably the funniest fantasy sports story of all time. So my freshman year of college, it was this fall of 2016, and it's not funny. It's tragic, but like it's one of those like, what do you do in that moment kind of thing. So I'm in a league with some friends that we've been doing for years, and fantasy baseball. It's the playoffs roll around in September, and literally like the third day I'm on campus, and I went to college with the kid that I was in the final with. He was a year older than me, and I'm like, hey, yo, like we got to talk. The second to last day of the fantasy baseball playoffs, the Mets are playing the Marlins, and I'm up by like 5 points. Now, for those of you who don't play fantasy football or fantasy baseball, you have 7 matchup acquisitions to spend for the week. And typically you add a starter for every single day. So you have someone constantly pitching in order to get you points. Because pitching, it gives you like a huge edge. I had no one tapped for Sunday because I had 3 pitchers ready to go. I think it was like Clayton Kershaw, Robbie Ray, and Jose Fernandez. It's the second to last day of the fantasy baseball playoffs. The Mets are playing the Marlins. Jose Fernandez was supposed to pitch on Saturday. Don Mattingly goes, hey, we're going to give you the day off. You'll pitch on Sunday. What does he do that Saturday night? He goes on the boat and dies. I lost the fantasy playoffs in the final by 1.5 points. And Jose Fernandez averaged like 20 points on the year. So I would have clearly won. Text this kid. And I go, hey, like I know I lost, but like I literally had the Cy Young award-winning pitcher. And like, could we do like a 70-30 split or even like get my money back? It was like $100 in the league. He goes, no, screw you. I want it all. Needless to say, I'm no longer that kid's friend because what a douchebag move. A man died.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Lost. It was horrible. And like to this day, I get so livid about it.
That is, I mean, from the human side, that's definitely one of the saddest stories ever in sports.
Horrible.
The guy was just like he was insane. I mean, he was, we can always play like the what if game. Like he probably knowing like the Miami Marlins history, they never keep those guys. Like let's be honest, like they didn't keep Stan, they didn't keep JT. They didn't keep Yelich. Like I know like they acquired Marte, but they lowballed him with his extension, whatever. Like, and he was like, get the fuck out of here. Like it would have been. It's really a shame because obviously he's a great guy, but it's like it's always interesting because it's like, geez, like if he was like if that never happened, if he was still around today, like he would have been. And how many Cy Youngs do you think he would have won? Like
a lot.
Like he would have won.
At least 2.
I was going to say 3. I think he might have. And DeGrom is 2. I think he would have won more than DeGrom. And DeGrom's amazing. And
not to mention too, like Fernandez had like the stuff. He wasn't a hardball pitcher. He just had nasty ass stuff. I think the crazy part too is that like that story that I heard about. I think Giancarlo Stanton, like on the year anniversary of it happening, told a story about how Jose Fernandez's 3 best friends on the team was Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, and Marcell Ozuna. And he invited all 3 of them, plus D. Gordon, plus Starling Marte, everybody on the boat that night. And none of them could have went. Stan said, oh, like his girlfriend and him had plans. I think Ozuna's thing was like he had like a young baby at the time. So everyone cancels on him. Imagine if all of those guys were on that boat that night, the tragedy that would have come from, not for nothing, like even if you take away their best seasons, like Yelich's MVP, Stanton's 55 home run year, these are all incredibly talented baseball players that you would have lost in the blink of an eye. It would have been the biggest tragedy in pro sports ever.
It would have been up there. The
Marshall football team's one thing, but this
I'm
like
saying
pro athletes.
That hockey team incident that happened.
Oh, true, yeah. Well, I'm saying like pro sports, like specifically in the major sports area. Like Roger Maris is one. Calvin Hunter. Was it? Thurman Munson. So many Yankees. Thurman Munson's plane crash is one that obviously stands out. But like this would have been
Roy Halladay.
Five elite level players. Like Dale Earnhardt's another one of those. Like absolutely insane to even fathom losing a multiple Cy Young candidate, or should have been, an eventual MVP winner, eventual home run champion. Like it's just absolutely insane. But needless to say, fantasy baseball has not been my friend, and nor has fantasy football. And I hope to not have just like 8 wins this year. I'm in a different league that I have. My keepers are Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Let's see if for my 4th year in the league I can finally win the title. It's like every year something happens and they screw me up. So we'll see how things jive. The finale of the 2024 PGA Tour season comes to a close this week at East Lake in the Tour Championship. Welcome in to Get in the Hole, Steve McAvoy, Ben Pirro, joining us for the first little quarter of the show. Our Brave and Fearless leader, Kyle Bennett, coming to you live from the Underground, a part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you can get a hold of the 3 most handsome men, a part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia group, bringing you all the news, analysis, and betting tips from across the golfing world, including the PGA, LPGA, Corn Ferry, and LIVGolf tours, proudly presented by some of the best sponsors in the biz, including Tomahawk Shades. You know, I actually just bought a pair of my Tomahawk Shades. Gonna get them in about a week. Got them for the groomsmen officially. We are officially locked in to wedding season. I'm like 3 months away from getting married. Kind of, or 4 months. Kind of ridiculous. Gonna give them to the guys at the bachelor party next week. So hyped to get them. It's basically like these, but just like blacked out. It's the neutralizers, the neuralizers. The neuralizers, yes. Those things look absolutely sick, and probably based on looks alone, from the well put togetherness of my glasses now to what I'm going to get, I'm very much excited to get my pair of Tomahawk Shades in the best small batch eyewear brand in the country. Found it just down the road here on Long Island and rep by some of the biggest brands, personalities in sports, including Chris Hogan, Kyle Harrison, and Paige Sporanic. Tomahawk Shades is guaranteed to keep you looking fresh from the first hole to the 18th green and beyond. TomahawkShades.com or the Tomahawk Shades app, where you can get your hands on some tremendous sunglasses, blue light plus glasses, and prescription lenses. KB has got them rocking out already. He knows what's up. And be sure to use code USP for 25% off your next order at TomahawkShades.com or the Tomahawk Shades app. Once again, for Ben Pirro, Kyle Bennett, I'm Steve McAvoy. Welcome in to Get in the Hole as we finally conclude another tremendous season. Where's the year gone? We're already almost in September. This is kind of getting ridiculous here, isn't it?
Very. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the speed that summer flies by in.
Yeah, I want summer to slow down. I think that's a country song, Slow Down Summer. I want summer to slow down because I'm leaving for Florida in 6 days, and it's hurricane season. It's going to be hotter than Satan's butthole down there. It's going to rain every day. Yeah, literally. It's going to rain every day at 3 p.m. But I got to get that work in, baby, because you know what's right around the corner. Q school, back to school, baby. Let's fucking go.
Kay bounced out on me. Kay bounced out on me today to go help out her friend set up her middle school classroom. And I'm like, holy shit, we're already starting school. My siblings started their first days of college today. My siblings, 2 sophomores, and then my sister just started Hofstra Law School. So shout out to them. But like they're growing up so freaking fast. And I'm like, yo, you're already like a sophomore. My one sister's like, she just turned 21. I'm like, God, like we're all getting so freaking old, and like every year goes by. I was talking to a guy on LinkedIn, and he graduated in like 2012, and I'm like, holy shit, that was 4 years before the year he graduated from high school was the year that I started high school, and I'm like, you don't seem much like older than me. And like 10 years ago, I would have thought like those kids were like ancient. It's absolutely crazy to me, like how fast the years go by. A teacher my freshman year told me like, enjoy every moment because it only gets faster in your life. And when the minute you told me that, my life's like flashed before my eyes. Like 10 years have gone just like that. I wish I can go back to college. I wish I can go back to elementary school and not have to worry about money and everyone's my friend and I can just go play recess. And that feeling when you were like a little kid where like they would have like extended recess. peak moment of my life. That and like trading snacks. I was a fucking stock trader before I was even learning stocks. You kidding me?
This man said he was on the snacks stonk exchange.
Well, actually, it's funny. I remember my mom used to send me to school with raisins, and I fucking hate raisins.
Oh.
And I used to trade them with Kay, and she would give me like I know, right? Fucking adorable. Like in like second grade, and that's a good story that you could tell at the wedding. So my mom used to constantly give me raisins, and one day,
oh, dude, just not to cut you off, I'm bringing out some stories for the wedding. All right, KB, Amy and I are gonna collaborate, and we're gonna pick our favorite ones. Okay.
Oh my god! No,
please. We're gonna rehearse them to each other because it's gonna be a riot. You can trust us.
I'm gonna give a photo to the DJ and say, if this man tries to claim a microphone at any point tonight,
have you seen this?
Pepper spray him, like mace him, and have him sit in the corner, handcuffed.
My man was out here trading on the New York Snack Exchange.
Dude, like I was saying, bro, my mom used to give me raisins every day, and one day I go, Ma, I don't like raisins, and she goes, but you come home every day and they're not there. Where do they go? And I go, oh, I give them to Kay.
Wait, so how long have you known Kay for then?
We met in the second grade.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fucking forever. It's like kind of weird.
You fucking sitcom relationship.
Yeah, like we're the Marshall and Lily of like everyone's relationship. Everyone's life.
You know, me, I'm just like single as fuck over here.
Ben's my Barney.
What?
You're Barney Stinson. You need to watch How I Met Your Mother immediately, and you will then understand the entirety of this reference.
I'm Barney. Okay.
It's pretty accurate.
You're Barney. You are Neil Patrick Harris.
I don't know if that's a good. It doesn't sound like it's that endearing. I don't know.
He's a womanizer.
Oh Jesus! That is not me. That is awful. Why would you say that?
I don't mean it like that. I mean it in more of like an endearing way. Like you, like always.
Terrible.
No, but hold on. He's a womanizer for like 3 seasons, and then he gets the girl.
You could say I'm a ladies' man. That's a little bit more accurate.
All right. Well, no. Barney's a womanizer. You're a ladies' man. But like, if we're like, there's nobody in the hot middle, so like it's hard to do it. Also, I immediately think of you. There's one episode where Barney introduces the hot crazy scale, and I'm like, this is something that Ben follows, like canon religion. The hot crazy scale.
Oh yeah,
this level of hot, that level of crazy.
Oh,
anyways,
100%.
That's called boy math.
13 minutes in, and not an ounce of golf to be talked about. Let's get into the not the womanizer story of the year, but the rags to riches story of the year. So Keegan Bradley, last year, literally about a year ago to the day, was seen on Full Swing Season 2 getting denied a spot on the Ryder Cup team from Zach Johnson. He was in a pit of misery. He hated golf. He wanted to give up. Fast forward to a year, he's named the captain of the Ryder Cup team. Everyone's like, what the hell's going on? And to see this man win a event, not only just a event, but the BMW Championship, a part of the FedEx Cup playoffs, launches him into 4th place in the standings going into East Lake. Hasn't been to East Lake in years, by the way. The energy, I don't know if you guys saw it, the energy that he exuded from winning this week at the BMW, and this segues right into the point here. I honestly am so happy now, and I gave him a lot of shit, and I will admit that, because I didn't think maybe him as the Ryder Cup captain was the right pick, but the energy that he gives when he wins is unlike anybody else you see on the PGA Tour. Like this guy, when he wins, it's like he's won his last ever tournament. He screams, he jumps around, he pounds. He's like fucking Adam Sandler winning in Happy Gilmore. And I absolutely love it. And I low-key now cannot wait for the Ryder Cup next year and to see him go absolutely bonkers over even the first 4-ball of the day on a fucking Saturday morning. It's going to be glorious.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were going to continue to talk. So
no, you're okay.
But Keegan shows his energy level is like up here nonstop. And I don't know really how he does it. I think that's really just his personality. He's very extroverted in how he shows his emotions, you know. But the thing is, you never see him on the golf course like really pissed off or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he's either going great or he's just like kind of flatlining. And by flatlining, I mean he's just like chill, cool, whatever. But you can tell every shot means so much to him. And look, I mean, you and I were both very skeptical about him as the Ryder Cup captain, and we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go. We basically have like over another year, okay, with what, probably 13 months, roughly. That being said, number one of the most underrated fist pumps in the game. I think you'd agree with that for sure. Yeah, 100%. He's a
double.
I remember the first fist pump I ever saw him do at the 2011 PGA at the Atlanta Athletic Club. He made this putt from like across the green, like late in the round, and no one really knew who Keegan Bradley was. You know, look, he's from Massachusetts, I believe, or Vermont, one of those states. Went to St. John's, which is not at all a golf powerhouse. And he just worked his way up. You know, he does have some good like golf history in his family. And I do believe that that's a real thing. You know, I do believe that, you know, athletic genetics, I believe that that's a real thing. I'm sure you guys would agree. And the moment's never too big for him. And I think he's honestly had one of the most underappreciated careers because while he hasn't won a lot, he's won a lot of good events. You know, I mean, you win the PGA, you win the BMW. He's won a handful of times on tour. Is he the same player that he was, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago? No, he's not. You know, everyone has a shelf life. But the bottom line is that I personally believe, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I could be totally off base here. And if I am, I'm sorry. I feel like he's almost played better since he was announced as the Ryder Cup captain. Steve, I mean, like, I don't know, like maybe if you could just like look at his profile since like roughly the time. I don't know, like, yeah, I think being that the Ryder Cup's going to be at Bethpage Black, which he has a history, he like dating back to he's been playing there since college. Like Steve, when Steve caddied for me at the New York State Open at Bethpage Black, we were getting shuttled out to the 10th hole. The guy told us a story who was shuttling us. He was like, yeah, so St. John's, like there used to be kids that would come out here all the time and sneak out here. And they would basically stay on like the side of the road that we were starting on. That was the rule for them. And they would park by the maintenance area. And so there was this one guy who was this maintenance guy was like, hey, like we have like these 4 kids, like with like these St. John's bags who are playing. And one of the maintenance guys on the maintenance staff goes, is one of them really tall and skinny? And they're like, yeah. And the guy goes, yeah. And he goes, yeah, that's Keegan Bradley. Let's leave him alone. Like that's literally how it went. And so they would sneak out there. And so when you have a course like Bethpage Black, which is so historic, and to a player who it clearly means, like golf in general just clearly means so much to him, he would love, number one, he would love nothing more than to be the captain of that team, which he is. He went to school, 30 minutes away from there? Ended up basically calling his home course in college, sounds like. And on top of that, if he can play there, if he can play on the team, like as play as a captain, which is a real thing. Tiger did it in the President's Cup in 2019, maybe. I think when it was in Australia. It's doable. It's possible. And he's a Northeast guy. And I think this has almost perhaps rejuvenated his career. And the fact that he wasn't selected last year, which I think Steve and I both thought might have been a mistake. I can't remember. But
what?
What's that?
Sorry. What are you saying?
that you and I both might have thought that it was a mistake that he wasn't selected for the Ryder Cup last year. I think we both agreed because I was like, I probably would have taken, I probably would have taken Keegan over Justin Thomas, but regardless, I don't know. I could be wrong. My memory escapes me. But that being said, I think he's almost been rejuvenated. I think it's a real possibility that he could be on that team. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. And look, now he's fourth. What is he, fourth in the FedEx Cup now?
Yeah.
He's fourth in the FedEx Cup. So he's starting at Eastlake right there. I mean, look, not to get into odds super early, but he's plus 3,500. He's fourth on the not fourth in the odds boards. He's up there in the odds boards. So yeah.
So I have two notes on this whole Keegan thing. First of all, they need to hang this photo up in the Louvre ASAP. And then shortly after the 1, it was the 2, and he like fist pumps or he chest pumps his caddy. Like this image right here just shows you he's as stoked for his 7th career win as he is for his first. The guy absolutely loves this. Also, to remark on your story about his trip to about his trips to Bethpage, I believe the story also goes that they had never played the like clubhouse side of the road. So what is that, 15 through 18? And so
hole one.
So, yeah. So one day he goes, hey, like we should do it. And that was when they were caught. But they were like, well, like we can't tell the golf coach like they're gonna get in trouble. So that's when they called him off. They were like, oh, like the one kid's like tall and lanky. Yeah, that's Keegan. Like let's let him go. And like they're playing like sundown rounds, like in the dark, walking up 18 because they're like no one's gonna see us. So like I love the whole story about it. But again, I think the energy that he exudes when he wins an event like this, again, even as his 7th career win, he's as hyped for it as his first time he did it all these years ago. It gives me a different picture of what I'm expecting from a Ryder Cup captain now, who, might I add, he has more wins in the last 2 seasons than combined. Listen to this: Ricky Fowler, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay, and Colin Morikawa.
Yep.
So that right there, first of all, goes to show you that he did deserve his captaincy, his spot on the roster last year. The fact that he didn't get it is honestly an absolute sham. But then on top of that, the fact that he is so talented and has a skill set that now can translate into being a leader on this team. And honestly, like his form hasn't necessarily been any better. He's finished outside of the top 30 in every event up until now. Kind of like one of those like come out of nowhere like wins for him. But the course fit his game so well. It simply was a spot for him to succeed. So everything all works out at the end of the day. But just from a morale standpoint, watching this guy win makes me want to root for him. It makes me want to be on his team. KB, do you have any like thoughts about someone who like I can't think of a time where I've seen someone who isn't necessarily the number 1 best player who's representing you as a captain, but like he's the culture guy.
It's weird that it's happened because I'll relate it to my baseball fandom. Everyone like always assumes Bryce Harper is like the captain of the Phillies, and it's because he's the front facing like superstar and everything. But if you really pay attention to the Phillies, you know that like the captains are actually Kyle Schwarber, and then like your associate captain or however you want to designate it is actually Nick Castellanos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally see it. I think it's like everyone always assumes and there haven't really been any like captains per se in sports that like get that like designated get the patch, but like Aaron Judge as the Yankees front man, that makes sense. But the Red Sox for all these years, and I keep comparing to baseball because really you don't really have captains in basketball or anything like that. Obviously hockey does have captains, but again, those guys. I mean, even in hockey standards, like Jacob Trouba being the captain of the Rangers, he certainly isn't the best player. Certainly also isn't the best defensive player. Then again, most people don't even know why he is the captain to begin with. But clearly is a culture guy. But when Jason Varitek was the captain of the Red Sox for all those years, like Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz, Johnny Damon, Kurt Schilling, Tim Wakefield, who everyone adored. Like that right there just goes to show you how even the unspoken leaders can be so important. And again, like to Ben's point, I don't think Keegan Bradley is one of those like uber heavily outspoken guys. Again, he doesn't really get angry. He's very much keeping it in neutral wherever he goes. He's probably the definition of stand tall and carry a big stick, and not just because he's 6'4". Like the fact that he is always so calm and collected, but has the moments of pure elation and joy that he has. That's just how can you not root for the guy at this point?
That's actually a really good analogy you made. And back to the captain thing. I mean, it's a lot of times just to piggyback off what you guys are saying, because I completely agree. It's hard, especially in team sports, for there to be a captain on a team who isn't like the best player, because a lot of times guys, they won't be as apt to listen to you if your play starts to slip. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be like a good locker room guy. You know, I mean, I'll throw another one at you, like Matt Martin from the Islanders. Like he barely plays. Okay. Like, and I remember the Islanders signed like a 4-year, I think it was like a $10 million deal. And I looked at my buddy who was also an Islanders fan. I was like, that's a lot of money to give to a guy where the game has really gone in a different direction. Like, it's not really about fighting and hitting anymore. It's about, you know, it's about speed. It's about, you know, precision. He's just not really that. And so he's much more of an old school player. He's a bigger body. And my buddy looked at me, he's like, yeah, but he's invaluable to the locker room, you know? And I think it's when you have someone like a Keegan, like a Matt Martin, like a Kyle Schwarber, who's still very good, like a Nick Castellanos, who's still really good. When those guys are the captains, though, and they're like, quote unquote, not the best players on their team, obviously golf, it's different, but, you know, Keegan was selected for this role. Mm-hmm. That just shows you have a high level of character. And that just shows that people respect you. And that just, you know, that makes you so valuable to a group of guys who it's really hard to lead a team in sports. That's really hard because you have egos, you have guys who have their own agendas. But when you have someone like that, who everyone's just like, we fucking respect that guy, even though he's like, he has not had the best career out of other compared to other guys in this team, we still respect him and we will still listen to him. And I think that kind of goes back to, I love Zach. I work with his coach. I've never met Zach personally. I've never heard a bad thing about Zach, but I don't really think he commanded the locker room last year. And it's a shame because he's such a nice guy, but based on some of the things that we had kind of heard that had kind of leaked regarding the team, the issues that they had publicly, it was pretty clear like they probably didn't really respect him as much. And I think with Keegan, he can kind of command a room a little bit more. And so that just comes down to personality. But, you know, when you have a good personality and you are intense and every shot is so purposeful, every shot means a lot to him. You can tell he's very purposeful with how he plays. Mm-hmm. That gets everyone's attention as well. He's a great competitor, you know, and you're at a professional level like that, you're going to be a great competitor, but he takes it to another level. He really does.
I have another great comparison for a captain who wasn't always, or actually probably never was, the best player on his team, but always was the rallying voice. I bet, Ben, as somebody who, and I, honestly, KB, I don't even know if you know this. Do you guys know who the captain of the Miami Heat was for 20 straight years?
It's Haslam.
Haslam, yeah.
Yeah. Like the last guy on the bench who they literally signed to a 5-year, $1 million deal just to sit there. Him and what was his name? Juwan Howard. Yep. They were on those like late teen LeBron teams with Spoelstra. Haslam didn't play a minute. He was the captain. He's been the captain since every single year Eric Spoelstra was there until he retired last year, and they only then gave Bam Adebayo the captainship. The guy had been there forever. Then my one friend from who lives in Miami, he's like, yeah, they're gonna put his like banner like in the Raptors. They're gonna retire the number 45 forever, mm-hmm. And that's the coolest thing.
That's the other thing. And it's like, it's kind of like, I mean, this might not be as good of an example. Andre Iguodala. It was kind of like the same thing. Like, I think Miami did bring him in. And like, but he never put up the greatest numbers, but everyone knows Andre Iguodala is the ultimate teammate. And he's the ultimate, like, if you need someone to sacrifice something for the betterment of the team, you go to him. That's who you go to, because he's like, yeah, it's the team first. And that's why Golden State kept him for so many years, you know, and that's why he was such a key piece to that dynasty, you know? I mean, yeah, Udonis Haslem. I mean, that guy, yeah, he never played. He never played. And they were just like, yeah, like you're gonna be here. It's kind of like even like a Brian Hoyer or something. Like Brian Hoyer sucks at football now, but he still finds jobs, like, because he's great for the room. Like he's great for the quarterback room. I don't even know the team anymore, but like he's great for a quarterback room. You know, it's like, you know, people sit there and be like, how does Brian Hoyer have a backup job in Cam Newton? Well, one's good for the room and one isn't. Clearly, you know, one sacrifices and one has his own personal things that he wants to still accomplish. So that goes a long way in sports. And we don't really talk about it in golf because it's so individual, but it's actually nice to have this conversation because the Ryder Cup is a team thing at the end of the day, you know, and I know we probably have to move on soon, but if we can flush the drama from the last Ryder Cup moving into this one, the U.S. team could be really, really scary. And we know they can be. We know they have that ability. And I guarantee you Keegan's going to be like, you guys remember what Rory said, right? After they won the Ryder Cup last time, how they're going to win again. Like, you guys do remember that, right? Like, I guarantee you that's going to be a talking point in that locker room. He's going to have those guys ready, like, I think fired up and ready to go.
So I think and actually you transitioned this very well. So I give you a lot of credit here. With the transition moving on now to with the BMW getting out, and now we're on to East Lake. We'll talk more about that on the other side of the show. But the 2024 President's Cup with the final week of the season coming up, we do officially have standings and lock-ins for who will be on the 2024 President's Cup rosters in Montreal to come. And while, of course, Keegan Bradley is not the captain of this team, he very well might actually get a spot on the roster at this point. Captained by Jim Furyk. And again, with Keegan Bradley preparing for next year, the team we're going to see this year is going to be relatively similar to what you see going in to Bethpage next year. Locked in for Team USA include Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Patrick Cantlay, and Scythe Theegala making his second President's Cup appearance. Has not appeared, though, in a Ryder Cup. You might very well see him come next year. On the international side, Hideki Matsuyama, Sungjae Im, Adam Scott, Tom Kim, Jason Day, and Ben An. That's five actually. Asian/Oceanic players, or rather, which is actually like kind of crazy. Actually, sorry, no, all six. We have four continental Asians, and then Scott and Day. I feel like these teams are going to actually be a really good indicator, particularly the USA team, obviously, for who comes next. The captain's picks are still yet to be determined. I want to get your guys' take on who deserves a spot on the President's Cup, only occurring in a couple of weeks. The next guys up on the board: Sam Burns, Tony Finau, Russell Henley. Keegan Bradley jumps 8 spots to 10th now. Brian Harman, Max Homa, Chris Kirk, Akshay Bhatia, and Eric Cole round out the top 15. And then on the international side, Corey Connors, Cam Davis, Minwoo Lee, Christian Bezaden, Taylor Pendrith, Nick Taylor, Adam Hadwin, Siwoo Kim, and Mackenzie Hughes round out their top 15, at least for the USA side. And again, in discussing and segueing how Keegan's going to be looking into who he wants to see on this team, I honestly can almost guarantee you right now that he will, in fact, be a captain's pick just to see how these guys can react in a room. I think a lot of what's happening that we don't talk about enough is that Jim Furyk's job, as somebody who has been a Ryder Cup vice captain for a very long time, is going to have the very interesting opportunity to not only have vice captains on his team that are going to include guys that Keegan's going to have, including Webb Simpson and what's the name that I'm completely blanking on? Brent Seneker, but he's also going to be able to play with Scotty, play with Theegala, Morikawa, Schauffele, Wyndham Clark, see who works and who might not going into next year. Who do you think, let's just assume hypothetically, that Keegan Bradley is in cahoots here with Jim Furyk, will earn a spot on the roster? Who are the 5 other guys that should make this team that Keegan might be scouting out to say, hey, should this guy be on the team next year? And again, a long way to go, but at the very least, not a lot of things can change in a year's time.
I think one of the things that's really important to understand, golf is such a momentum game. Okay, it really is. If you have momentum, it's really easy to ride that wave, like it is in any sport, I'm sure. But especially, I think golf, especially because it's so mental. And so, especially because the President's Cup, the Ryder Cup, those are emotional weeks, right? You're representing your country. That being said, I find that the U.S., that historically, really, they tend to go for more of like the historic picks, like who have we had before, not who can help us now. Does that make sense, Steve? Like even like going back to like I think it was like 2010, I remember. You know, like I get it. Like, you know, every single, like, whether it's the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup, there are always guys where it's just like, he hasn't had a great year, but he's been so good for us in the past. He's been, you know,
exactly,
for a long time. We're going to have him as a captain's pick, which if that's what you want, fine. But I truly believe that I just don't think that that's sustainable. I really don't. Like, if Sam Burns is not on this team, I might lose my mind. Like, there's no reason for Sam Burns not to be on the team. Keegan Bradley's riding a hot hand right now. He should be on the team. Like, I'm looking at guys like, I mean, shoot, I wouldn't want Homa on the team. I would not. I don't think he's had a good enough year at all. He even said, he's like, it's been a weird year. Yeah, it has been, Max. Like, you really weren't. You were so up and down. We didn't really recognize your game out there. I would almost say, like, I wouldn't want JT on the team either. I wouldn't. I think he barely made the Tour Championship this week. I think he started 30th.
He's 30th.
Yeah. Like, why? Like, there's no reason. There's no logical reason for Justin Thomas to be on this team. So, tell you what, why don't you give me your 5 and I'll give you my 5 because I need a little bit of time. I already gave you 2 of mine. Burns.
Yeah. So here's where I think things get interesting. And KB, I want your opinion here too. First of all, we already kind of know that while the President's Cup is an important week, it's not as important for the U.S. than it is the Ryder Cup. Obviously, it's one of those. It's still a valuable week to represent your country, but when you're really looking at it from the outside looking in, they really do care more about the Ryder Cup. I think this is going to be a really good tune-up week and a week to have the guys who maybe you don't want quite yet in a Ryder Cup, maybe the younger guys who, if they perform really well in the President's Cup, and again, not for nothing, against a relatively good competition. I remember 2 years ago, we joked about how the international team was not good at all because all the guys from LIV had left. Obviously,
you joked about it, not me.
It's a very new team now. Ben On is back to great form. Tom Kim has came out of nowhere. There's a lot of really strong competitors this year for the international team. But first of all, the fact that Sahith Theegala made it as an automatic qualifier just shows that he will in fact be on the team next year, and I cannot wait for that. My 5 though to join Keegan Bradley on this team would be Sam Burns. If I want someone to make a debut, I'm not looking at a Brian Harman or a Max Homa for this team. I think Chris Kirk, despite a really good year this year, he's just too old. I want more of the youth to test them out and see how they do in these team formats. I would love to see Akshay Bhatia on this roster. He will be a Ryder Cup player, maybe not next year, but very well in 2-3 years' time. The problem is that like a lot of these guys, once you get past Bhatia at 14, they're all like, they had good years. They had partial, like they had good parts of the year, bad parts of the year. Like Cameron Young's 21st. Cameron Young was on a Ryder Cup team last year that honestly you didn't even really deserve it there. I don't know if I would want Cameron Young to be on a President's Cup team, you may have to take a Harmon or a Homa. Russell Henley is going to make the roster. Finau should make the roster. So I'd say Burns, Finau, Henley, Bradley, Batia. And if you had to throw another like wild card out there, nobody else who's in the top 25, I think, is very appealing. But I'd be interested in seeing how maybe if you go with the young guy, Denny McCarthy would make sense. If you want to go with the older guy, who might be a good veteran presence when you do end up playing the Ryder Cup, Billy Horschel's had a pretty good resurgent year. Might be a name that I'd be curious about.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much you and I are pretty much locked in for the most part. Look, like I said, I have Burns, Bradley. I think Finau, there's no reason for him not to be on that team. Yeah. It's the fact that he actually wasn't an automatic qualifier, I think, speaks to how just stacked the U.S. is right now. That's pretty – it's impressive that he was beat out by 6 other guys. Akshay, I completely agree. I think the energy that he brings, just the overall physical talent, he doesn't strike me as a guy where it's like the moment would be too big. I don't think him at all. I think he can completely just function how he's supposed to function in those high leverage situations. You know, he's never phased. He might not play the best all the time, but the moment's never going to be too big for him.
But you know what? Also, though, the nice thing about that is because he's never been on a stage like this, this is the kind of place that you do this at.
Oh, 100%.
You put him on the stage and say, "Hey, sink or swim moment, do your thing." And again, he's been no stranger to the bright lights. The kid left straight out of high school to go play pro golf. He's ready for this.
No, I completely agree. And I thought you hit the nail on the head with Billy Horschel. Look, remember, it's about what have you done recently. The guy has had a resurgent year, okay? From last year at the Memorial to where he basically had a breakdown at the podium, which was so sad because he's such a good guy, and he felt so shitty about his game, to now, like, yes, he won basically like one of the smaller events, one of the alternate events, but not only did he do that, he made it back to the FedEx Cup finals, okay? And he's had such a resurgent year. I think he's an emotional player. And I think it would really mean a lot to him to be a part of that team. I don't even know if he's made President's Cup. I don't think he's made a Ryder Cup. But I think he would be a good addition. So my 5 would be Burns, Bradley, Finau, Horschel, and Akshay. That's what I would go with. I think it's a good mixture of guys who are kind of used to these formats in a way. They've been in these positions before, but also guys who haven't, like an Akshay, and perhaps a Horschel. I don't believe he's ever made one of these. So
yeah, actually no, Billy Horschel's he's never made a Ryder Cup. He's never made a President's Cup. He actually said last year, going into the BMW, he said the Bethpage Ryder Cup team the Bethpage Ryder Cup will be a quote unquote crazy shit show. I've got to be there.
Well, the thing is, you know what the crazy thing is, not to get off topic? He's a FedEx Cup champion. And he didn't make whatever team. That was 2013, I think, maybe. It was 2013. So 2013, it's an odd number year. That would be a Ryder Cup. That's shocking.
It was 2014.
14. So that would have been a President's Cup year then, I believe. So, like, that's shocking. Like the fact that he wasn't on that team as a captain's pick. Yeah. That's nuts to me. But yeah, I think overall, like, it's probably safe to say that the U.S. is going to be favored because of just their historic dominance in this event. But I do definitely see, and we'll talk about it in the coming weeks, that international team, they've got a lot of studs for sure.
They do.
They have Hideki, who's been playing great recently. Sung Jae Im, who's just been a staple on tour for a while. He's like Mr. Consistent. Adam Scott's kind of had a resurrection to his career. He's kind of like the older guy on the team. Like, he's really like the leader who isn't a captain probably on that team. Same thing with Jason Day. Tom Kim, I mean, we saw how just electric he was in the last President's Cup. You just saw how much it meant to him. And like with the Olympics as well, how much that meant to him. So, he wants to represent the international squad. And Ben On, who, to be completely honest, like, had a lot of catching up to do because he was suspended. Like, think about it. He made it as an automatic qualifier, and he was suspended to start the year. That's called
everybody.
That's called golfing your ball. So, yeah.
My final thought here with Billy Horschel, because not only did it happen in 2014 when Tom Watson didn't pick him for the 15 Ryder Cup, but it was in 2021. I believe he had won the Dell Match Play, I think it was, if I'm not wrong. And he was inside of the top 20. I think he was like 28th in the world after the tour championship. It finished like T4, T5. And he played so well. He actually won after he was announced as not being on the team. He went and played a European Tour event. I think won it outright by like 6 strokes. And afterwards, he said, like, I deserve the spot. So not only did it happen to him once, but it happened to him twice. And Tom Watson screwed him over. Steve Stricker screwed him over for the Whistling Straits team, and that was also a very loaded team. I will admit that too.
Yeah.
But very much deserving, and also like as the older guy in the room, while the team is already getting younger, Webb Simpson, Brent Snedeker, Keegan Bradley are your captains. 3 more to come. The roster is going to be incredibly young. It's going to be incredibly raw. You might not even see, well, you're not going to certainly see most of the older live guys. You might see Brooks Koepka if he performs well during the major season. You probably will see Bryson. But past that, there isn't a whole lot of older players who are going to carry older veteran leadership. And I think it's interesting to have the old guy as a first-timer. It's kind of... It's like the old guy in the office who like transitioned out of one department and went to a different one totally differently, but wants to but it still has all this industry knowledge and has garnered this respect, but is almost like going into it like a 25-year-old learning it for the first time. So it's a very interesting, different dynamic, but I think it's something that's very valuable to have. Who just knows how to golf and knows how to do his thing and doesn't, and will defend you guys too. Like Billy Horschel, somebody who will. He won't back down from a fight from anybody's standards. But he's very cordial about it. If that makes any sort of sense.
No, I think that's look. He's one of those guys who's an emotional player. I've watched him in person. He's very well respected by his peers. Clearly, like I've never heard someone say something bad about him. You know,
No.
like the book has been written. Like he's a good guy who cares a lot, who can get emotional. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think that can be really good when you have a high-stress, emotional week.
Exactly. Yeah. 4 straight top 25 certainly locks in his should-be nomination. We'll see how that turns out in about a week or so. But we're going to take a short break on the other side. We're going to break down everything going into Eastlake, and we'll see if Ben can upset me in beer money and pull off possibly the greatest upset since the Giants took out the Patriots back in 2007. We'll be right back for KB, Benny Boy, and me.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high-quality clothing from t-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
Welcome back into Get in the Hole while Ben is somewhere off in the open. I want to take this time to shout out for the entirety of the year. A really tremendous season all around. It's been a lot. It's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of younger winners on tour. It's actually the youngest season for winners on the PGA Tour ever. It's like gone down, I think, almost 4 full years between Nick Dunlap and Jake Knapp and the rest of the crew earning first career victories. It's been a really kind of crazy year for the PGA Tour, but also one that I don't think I'll forget for a very long time. There's been a lot of really close moments and a lot of really strong performances all around. and I'm very excited to see what next year brings, or actually not even really that, only a couple of weeks starts the PGA Fall Series. But I want to get right into talking about what we have going on at the Tour Championship at East Lake. This breakdown of the Tour Championship in its entirety is going to be brought to you by our friends over at Acorn Hills, which makes a lot of sense that we're throwing Acorn Hills here in the ad read. East Lake, one of the biggest conservation spots next to the Waste Management Phoenix Open on the PGA Tour calendar. Southern Co. and Coca-Cola doing their absolute best to try and bring the best and safest conditions here at East Lake down in Atlanta. But Acorn Hills also is getting you the absolute best stylish apparel for on and off the course, all by using biodegradable packaging and plantable clothing tags. I actually recently just got myself a quarter zip from Acorn Hills. First of all, super comfy, wearing it on the bachelor trip as well as along with my Tomahawk Shades, naturally. Take the clothing tag, plant it in the ground. You get like 7 different kinds of flowers. Really cool to be able to add something to my my little garden out front. Acorn Hills is changing clothing through conservation. Be sure to use code GITH15 for 15% off your next order at acornhillsco.com and look your best from the ground up. Ben, you're frozen, but you have the biggest smile on your face. And I had to screenshot this.
Dude, dude.
No, Ben, yes. What?
Yes, you didn't get it. Ha.
Are you sure about that?
Well, based on your reaction, yes, I'm pretty sure about it.
Oh, you'd be shocked to find this.
No,
you look so happy.
So you want to know why?
Why?
It was hearing that you have a garden. I don't know. That just made me geek so hard.
No,
like, Steve has a garden. Like, Steve, you're like one with the earth. You're cultivating the ground. You're like one with nature. I'm so proud of you.
I'm a horticulturist. I'm a agrologist. I am. Have you ever seen the movie The Martian?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I could be Matt Damon and plant those potatoes in the on Mars.
All right, slow down there. All right, just slow down a little bit. I will say before we get into this,
magic of cinema.
What?
The magic of cinema.
So you came up today in conversation. I was talking to my mom, and she's like, "Oh, like what time's the podcast?" I was like, "Oh, 8, like usual." And so she's like, "Yeah," like for some reason, like she goes, "Yeah." So when Steve caddied for you at the State Open, all he talked about was how he like cooks like 3-course meals or something. And I was like, wait, like to who? And she goes, to me. And I was like, I had no clue that Steve was like such a cook, because a lot of times I just see you on here eating like Chipotle or something. Like,
because my Mondays are.
I'm not saying you can't cook, but I was just like, wait, like Steve makes like 3-course meals. Like, I just don't see really like this as a thing. Like, it is. Is it? Like, is that true?
Yeah. I mean, if only Kate was home. Yeah, Kate can't boil water, so I cook.
Well, she puts up with your shit, so there you go.
You know, we have a great system going. I cook, she cleans. Like it works out great. My only cleaning responsibilities is like my office space, like right here, because I'm the only person who ever comes over here, and the toilet.
Wow,
that's it.
As man to a man, it's kind of how it should be, you know.
Yeah. Well, and then also like I'll take the trash out because like we have a service that like comes and like picks up the trash at the front door just because we don't have the state doing it. So every morning when I leave for work, I'll take the trash out. And then like I'll occasionally like load the dishwasher, but like she doesn't mind cleaning up the plates and everything after I cook, because she's like, well, I didn't have to do it. So it works out pretty good.
So basically, you clean your desk area, you clean the toilet, right? You clean the toilet.
Yep, and I cook. That's it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
it's a pretty good system. If you come over, I can make some really good food. I've been making as of late Korean barbecue chicken. It's been so freaking good.
Don't tempt me. I only have like less than a week left. I don't know if I can make it over there. But
it's totally fine. Maybe if we play at some point, maybe I'll take off work and we'll find a time to play 9 or something, and I'll bring you some home cooked food for you for the road. Would actually probably be incredible. All right, let's get into it. Tour Championship preview. East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, nothing has really changed about this golf course year over year. It's been essentially the same golf course for the last few years, with the exception of a little bit of extension just from some storm damage as of late out in Atlanta. The East Lake Golf Club, par 70, 7,300 yards, Bermuda grass greens. The classic and apex Donald Ross design. Difficult, fast, undulated putting greens. A very hilly golf course, blind tee shots, blind approach shots, a lot of sloped greens. It is an absolute brute. While it doesn't look like anything crazy in terms of PGA Tour standards as opposed to other courses, it most certainly plays as one of the hardest courses of the year. Of course, the aggregate scoring, and that's the tiered scoring set up this week. See Scotty Scheffler begin at a 1 spot at 10 under, Xander Schauffele at 8 under, Hideki Matsuyama at 7, Keegan Bradley at 6, Ludwig Oberg at 5, and then a 4 under par, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Sam Burns, and Patrick Cantlay to round out the top 10. Past winners here, a very eclectic group, but also you'll see a lot of patterns of consistency. Guys who not only play this golf course very well, but also are familiar with this golf course and have Donald Ross in their blood. Victor Hovland won here last year at 27 under, the lowest score to date at East Lake. He started his week at 8 under par. Rory won his third, I think, in 2022. He started at 4 under. Yeah, actually, in the aggregate scoring era, the lowest starting score to win at East Lake started at 4 under, shot 17 under to win at 21 under par. In 2021 and 2020, Patrick Cantlay and Dustin Johnson both started as the 1 seed, both shot 21 under par. Rory in 2019, 18 under, and then Tiger won in 18 at 11. Xander in 2017, Rory in 2016, and Jordan Spieth in 2015. So you kind of see already the kind of names that make sense in order to win at this golf course. Conditions are going to be hot and humid, as it typically is in Atlanta. Ben, any sort of updates or any thoughts that you can give on East Lake as the pro in the room that will be an important factor this week for the top 30 in the world to partake this week?
Look, I mean, number one, the heat, the humidity. It's Atlanta. It's late August. It's going to be hot. That being said, the ball's going to be flying like crazy because it's so hot down there. Look, driving accuracy is incredibly important. We have seen numerous balls throughout the years and years of this tournament at this course just get swallowed up by that Bermuda rough. And what people don't understand, a lot of times what happens, Bermuda rough is not the thickest rough you can get. But the problem is the ball burrows down, and what I'm going to nerd out here basically. So when the ball's so when the ball's burrowed down and you have a shot, regardless, pitch shot, chip shot, iron shot, wedge shot, whatever, and you get a lot of grass between the club and the ball, yes, technically you are making contact with the ball, but the ball, it can tend to shoot off in different directions. The ball can tend to come up short. It can tend to come up long. So you're going to have to see guys on a course where you do need to drive it well. So there are some holes more narrow than others as far as trees, but the fairways, they're very well guarded by fairway bunkers and rough. The rough is thick, it's long. And so guys are going to have to, when you miss the fairway, you're going to have to be really, really good with understanding how that ball is going to react. When it comes out, when it hits the green, is it going to be a flyer? Is it going to come out dead? You have to be really good with that stuff. That being said, the greens there are always pure. Now look, before this was like, like an aggregate, before this became like an aggregate scoring event, when everyone would just start at par, scores were never terribly low. Okay. And part of that, I believe, has to do with it's a par 70. I believe it is a par 70. Am I right? Yeah. So look, par 70s are always harder to score in anyway because they effectively play longer than the yardage indicates because they have less par 5s. That being said, this is going to challenge. This is the type of course where if it wasn't a tour championship spot every single year, it could host a major. I truly believe that. Okay, this is a major setup without it being an actual major. You could argue it's perhaps the sixth major. You know, people say the Players Championship is the fifth. This could potentially be the sixth just because of how difficult the golf course is. So, look, you got Scotty Scheffler starting at 10 under. Okay, so if you're at even par, God bless you. You're probably not going to win. And that being said, it's the guys who are probably within, I would say, 6 shots. They have 4 rounds to make up 6 shots. That's probably the threshold. That's probably as low as you're going to be willing to go. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but at the end of the day, this is the type of course where a lot can happen. I miss the fact that they switched the 9s a couple of years ago. I wish it was still like 18 was the par 3, but that's a debate for another day, I guess. But that being said, you got to drive it well. The rough's going to swallow up the golf ball for sure. Whoever's the smartest player out there, or who also is the best caddy who can read these lies, that's going to be incredibly important. And the greens are so big, they're so grainy, they're so undulating. Your cadence, your speed control is going to be very, very important. Okay, this is not a birdie fest golf course. It's not. You shoot 4 consecutive rounds of say 68. That's a great week out there. So take it away.
Yeah, I think 2 things that are a huge point here, one of which relates to the betting in a hot bit. No one, with the exception of Rory McIlroy, has ever come from any worse than 4 under par to win this event in the aggregate. So you're right, 6 strokes has been the maximum that anybody's been able to pull off. And even then, when Rory did it 2 years ago, it was a almost stroke of genius, and everyone else had to royally screw up in order for him to get all the way up there anyways in that final round. 3 of the 5 winners have all started in either the first or second spot on this field. So you kind of know already the guys who have the odds to win versus the guys who are long. I think the interesting part about this golf course, it reminds me a lot of Augusta National, not in the sense that it looks like it at all. They happen to both be located in Georgia, but the prominent difference with East Lake is obviously the rough, but it's the way that every single approach shot, you either have the choice to go for it in a risky sense, or you're going to have to lay up. And it's a very much a par golf course. You're not going to be able to attack greens the way you want to. A lot of the pin locations, particularly late in the week, all come on the short side of the green. While the greens are huge, they undulate so heavily. You can go from the top right corner of the green, I believe, on 14. It's a par 3. And you can go all the way down to the base of this hill, which is 30 yards or 30 feet below the pin very quickly. If you get enough backspin, it's the best way it was described was, I believe it was Dylan Dethier was like, it's kind of like the 17th at Sawgrass, where if you get enough backspin from the top of that island, it can very much go all the way down and roll right off. And a lot of these holes are in the same way. A lot of false fronts, a lot of slopes down back towards you. I think there's 4 or 5 approach shots onto these greens that are blind, that you're going uphill. So if you miss, you're coming right back down the hill. So there's going to be a lot of approach play. It's really important. Not necessarily the proximity to the hole, but just finding a safe spot on the green and then putting really well is the key. If you can keep it in the fairway, keep it in play, you should be in a pretty good spot.
I agree with that. You know, I think I like your Augusta National comparison. As far as the green complexes, though, and I feel like you'll agree with me, Sedgefield Country Club, where they host the Wyndham Championship, I feel like these green complexes are quite similar.
Yeah.
You know, just the undulation, how big they are. Obviously, the surface, it's a Bermuda grass. They're very grainy greens. They're always quick. You get some big breaking putts. So I think that's definitely there's another comparison there. Before we get into beer money, I wanted to ask you a question I just thought of.
Okay.
I'm sure you saw this. Scotty raised a very valid point regarding the format of the FedEx Cup. Okay. And I'm not sure if you saw it, but he was seen in an interview where he basically said it's flawed because you have a situation where he's like, hypothetically, like if my back flared up and or his neck or back flared up and I withdrew, I would finish 30th in the FedEx Cup? I want you to think about that. And I'd never thought about it that way before, but I do believe, look, they have been trying for years to figure out the best way to do this format for the FedEx Cup. Because really, when it first became a thing, I think in 2007, that's when it was first introduced, Tiger won in 07 and 09. Other than that, it was a lot of guys. It was just kind of like, yes, he won the FedEx Cup, but did he really like deserve it? Was he the best player throughout the year? And oftentimes the answer was no. And so I think more recently, you know, like especially now, it's hard to say because of like the whole aggregate scoring thing, where you have the guy who's leading at 10 under par to start the week. Do you think that there's a way that they could just better run the scoring system of the FedEx Cup, I suppose, for this particular week? Because I think he raises a valuable point. I think you'd agree with me. Like, I withdraw because I hurt myself and I've had like an incredible year and I finished 30th in the FedEx Cup. Like, that's like kind of fucking nuts to me.
I mean, I think it's less about where you finished in the FedEx Cup, because at the end of the day, like, top 30, you're still getting X amount of dollars as like your reward for it. In addition to that, I mean, like, I think the problem that we run into in golf is the fact that everyone cares more about the majors than they do the playoffs. And it's very clear. And really, the playoffs is just a way for you to earn more money in a higher purse event in a shorter field, where I'm not even going to say it's more difficult than a major, but it kind of isn't. If you even look at the field of the top 50 at the BMW, Davis Thompson isn't making a major field 9 out of 10 years, comparatively to the other guys that are in there because of exemptions and other reasons. And those fields are usually far more difficult. The golf courses are also difficult, with the exception of like this year, Valhalla played really easy, but no one cares about the Tour Championship comparatively to the majors or to the players. I actually thought of this the other day, and I would actually love to see a situation where you took the top 30 players in the world. You did exactly what they do at the US Amateur, and we brought this up the other day. Have a 30-man field first 2 days of stroke play, and the top 14 go off and do a match play for the final 2 days. I think that would be a very compelling situation. Or even you do the top 10, whatever it could be, to make it very compelling. Everyone who misses out earns the same amount of prize money, because everyone's going to make money anyways in this event because they have enough money to give. And those top 10 would go on for a match play in the final 2 days, and you figure out who's the best in that final on Sunday. I don't like the aggregate scoring. I think, again, for a lot of guys, you're not getting the six strokes could be a lot. And we've said it in the past, like a 3-stroke deficit, or even like Xander to Scotty, 2 strokes isn't insane. You can make that up in one hole if someone screws up. But at a golf course like this, where no one's trying to get aggressive unless they have to, it really benefits the top 3 or 4 to play conservative while everyone else is playing aggressive, because everyone's trying to shoot all the way up the leaderboard. But you know, the best score you're probably going to shoot that isn't on Saturday is going to be 4 under, maybe 5, without having a pair of bogeys at least. Like, you're going to run into situations where you might be play uber aggressive and you end up with a 2 under day and you have 7 birdies and 5 bogeys, and it could very well happen. So I don't like how, for like Rory McIlroy at 4 under, which again we've seen it happen before, come all the way back and beat Scotty Scheffler at a 6-stroke lead. I'm less inclined to be interested in that than I would be if you did aggregate scoring and maybe gave the top 3 guys some strokes. Give maybe Scotty 3, Xander 2, and whoever finishes 3, one extra stroke, just to reward them for being so good the entire year. But the guys in 30, the guys at even par are all screwed. The guys at even 2 under par are, for the most part, screwed. And the only way that and again, we looked at it from the lens of winning. 4 under to 10 under. That means that only very rare situations are you going to have a guy who starts at 2 under or 1 under even crack the top 5, because you not only have all those guys ahead of you, but you've also got 4 other guys that have a 2-stroke lead on you or a 3-stroke lead on you. So I don't love the aggregate. I'd rather everyone start off at even par. Maybe change the format would be really cool. And again, do more of that like match play, like the US Am. But there's no great way to do it because you're competing with trying to make this more intriguing than the majors, and it's just not going to happen. You're in too deep.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with the match play scenario, because really golf initially was a match play sport.
Yeah,
that's really what it was. And so I think, you start with 30 guys, you cut it down to 8, right? And so then what you could do is you could just say, all right, we got our quarterfinal matches in the morning, we got our semifinal matches in the afternoon, and then then we got 36-hole final. I think that would be a cool way to do it. But that's
also a lot of golf.
What's that?
It's also a lot of golf.
Well, too bad. You have the whole off season. Like, if you make it a tour championship, let's be honest.
You have 4 months to relax. Yeah, just do it.
Probably not playing the fall events, I would assume. So, yeah. Regardless, Let's get into some beer money. It's a big week for your boy right now. I just want to make sure I understand one thing. This is our final week of beer money for the season, or are we counting the fall events? How are we doing this?
I will leave that up to you.
Oh, do we have to end it this week? Like, this is like you can't just, because like that does like the fall event.
I was under the assumption that we were doing that, although it would be hilarious for me to bet like the 800th player in the world for a top 40 against you to try and edge you out in the fall.
Sure.
Get the beer money brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer. Who's Kenny? He's smooth, he's clean, he's bright, with a taste to boot. He's the routine choice of folks who want a balanced, flavorful, no-frills beer that is right for any occasion. Just 120 calories, 8 grams of carbs. He's not a heavyweight hitter, but he's most certainly the best in the ring. Some say it's the best light beer they ever had. We just say you can't beat the original. Head to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny Tracker to find where you can get your hands on some ice-cold, refreshing Kenwood beers from your favorite liquor stores in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and now the great state of Delaware, the first state, the Constitution state. Must be 21 years or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. For those of you betting with us, please bet responsibly as well. We're going to shake things up, being that we have the opportunity of only 30 players. I actually found out sportsbooks do offer top 20 odds, but like to finish top 20, I think it's like a I want to see who the first guy to have plus odds would be for a top 20. It would be there's literally 3 guys who are plus odds. I was about to
say it would have to be like 25th in the FedEx Cup or lower.
Actually, it's not even that. The only 3 guys who are plus odds for a top 20 is Tom Hoagie, Chris Kirk, and Matthew Pavon.
No, thanks. We'll shoot up to top 10.
So we're going to jump right up into a top 10 finish. We're also going to have 2 winning selections this week. I'll let you lead off. Top 10. Who are you taking at the Tour Championship?
Okay. Look, this is an interesting week for gambling purposes. So that being said, I'm going with Sahith Theegala to finish top 10. He's starting the week at, where'd you go? There we go. He's starting the week at 3 under. So I like his odds to finish top 10. I think there's good value there. So we'll roll with that one.
Check the board for me. Where's Russell Henley starting? Is he at 3 or 2?
2.
All right. I'm going to go Russell Henley for a top 10 finish. Based on the odds that we're playing here, interestingly enough, actually, there's better odds for Russell Henley to finish in the top 10 than there is Theegala, which is really interesting for that 1-stroke difference. Henley's plus 150, Theegala's plus 240. Russell Henley's had a really good overall game this entire year. He's been very consistent. He's been on pace for one of his best statistical seasons ever. He's a horse for the course. He fits the kind of method. He plays well on these Donald Ross design courses. Going into the week, actually, he ranks in the top 5 in not only course history here in terms of strokes gained playing at East Lake, but also he's 3rd in the field in strokes gained on Donald Ross design courses. very accurate player, very straight player, manages to find his greens where he can. Isn't the greatest putter, but if he plays par or better, he should be able to crank his way through. Top 5.
All right, top 5. It was kind of a coin flip for me here. I was thinking either Rory or Ludwig. That being said, I need a good week. So selfishly, I'm going with Ludwig Åberg just because he's starting at -5 and not -4. I understand the volatility that Rory McIlroy can bring to this event. As you said earlier, he has come back from from 6 back at -4 to win. So that's such a big gap. I'm not talking about him winning. We're not talking about him winning right now. We're talking about top 5. That being said, I need a little bit of cushion. I know that they're similar on the odds boards, so I'm going to go with the younger guy who is also not quite as emotional as Rory.
So I think the interesting thing about East Lake is that you kind of have to go with the veterans. You have to go with the guys who are old souls who have played this course so often.
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy has won here 3 times. It's really cool and very interesting to think that he's won 3 FedEx Cups, but hasn't won a major in the same duration that he's been playing in this event. He enters this week 2nd in strokes gained total per round at East Lake. He's 2nd in strokes gained total per round on Donald Ross course designs. He wasn't a great course fit the first 2 weeks of the FedEx Cup playoffs, which shows in his results. But this is an ultimate course fit for him. He's got a lot of work to do, but at the end of the day, he's shown it twice in the past. He's up for the challenge. In 2019, he won starting at 5 under. In 2022, he won at 4 under. So he understands what it takes to be dominant on this golf course. I like Rory McIlroy a lot for top 5. I love the old soul. The emotion is there. And again, the backdoor top 5 is Rory's game. And East Lake is nothing like the majors that he's played at. Your gimme pick before we get into our winning plays.
So just an interesting, I just want to piggyback off something you said. Had a little bit of an aha moment there. Rory always plays better when he's coming from behind.
Always.
So like that's why he's like before Xander, it was like Rory was the king of backdoor top 5s and top 2 tied for seconds or whatever, and now then it was Xander, and now he's kind of gotten the monkey off his back. But it makes sense actually why he's played so well and why he's won 2 of these events, this event twice at -5 and -4 to start the week. Because he's starting with a deficit. Some players I've learned there are some players who almost need to feel like they almost start around over par. Like they get to the first tee and they're like, I'm 3 over par, and it makes them lock in a little bit. Yep. Not everyone's like that, but maybe Rory has a little bit of that. So that's it. That's interesting. I don't know. I just thought of that. Regardless though, I'm going to go with Sam Burns for a top 10. My reasoning, I just want to double check before I say this. Where is he starting? He's starting at -4. We call him Sam Bermuda Burns for a reason. These are Bermuda greens. He's a great putter. I feel like I can't remember really the last time he had a bad putting week. And I just want to make sure. Yeah, he finished tied for 2nd last week. Now, granted, it was out in Colorado. A little bit of a different atmosphere as far as, weather conditions, course conditions. But that being said, he's still riding a hot hand. So that's why I'm going to go with him for a top 10.
Where are we at here? I'm going to go with somebody who over the last 3 years, not only has he won a FedEx Cup in the past, but he hasn't finished worse than 7th in his last 3 outings here at this golf course. I'm going to go with Patrick Cantlay, a guy who, again, has experience to win here. And while hasn't necessarily been in the greatest form comparative to the rest of the field, did finish top 20 at the St. Jude and the BMW, finished 3rd at the US Open, 5th at the Travelers. He has experience in other golf courses that are similar to this. And while I compared it to Augusta, he hasn't always had the greatest success at Augusta National, but back-to-back top 15s at playoff venues, both very different. This one being especially different. Early in his career, he was like consistently in the back 20s, but the last 3 years he's finished within the top aggregate at 4 under or better. He also begins at 4 under this week and has finished at least at top 10 or better. So I am intrigued by Patrick Cantlay. Let's get into the winners of the Tour Championship. We have 2 picks here. Who's going to win on aggregate and who's going to win on the net gross score? Meaning if everybody started at even par, who would finish with the best overall score at the end of the week?
Okay, so with the aggregate, with everyone starting at their respective positions, this would also mean that this person is a FedEx Cup champion, just so everyone is clear who's listening. I just want to run down some different scenarios before I say this, and I feel like you and I are going to be on the same page regarding this. For betting purposes, Scottie Scheffler, you just can't pick him because he's minus 110. Okay, like there isn't any really, at least what I'm looking at. That's the odds there are terrible. So you can't really pick, for betting purposes, you can't really pick Scottie. Xander really didn't have a great week last week. Now, granted, he's had a very good year. He's won 2 majors. But last week, not the greatest, completely different environment, though, so take that for what you will. Hideki didn't even play last week because he hurt his back. So if you're looking at Hideki, yes, he's only starting 3 back, but a back injury for a professional golfer, that's concerning. Keegan, I get it. He won last week, but, he's riding the hot hand. But can he keep it going for another week? I mean, shoot, like last year, Lucas Glover kind of did that for a little bit. So is it possible? Sure. But, he's not exactly a spring chicken, like he's kind of at the tail end of his career. I do believe. And really like the most threatening player, potentially the most threatening player to Scottie really would be Rory, because he's been in this position twice. Okay. Colin doesn't really hit that great, I believe, to pick up 6 shots in 4 days. Same with Wyndham Clark. I don't know. He had a really good start to the year and he kind of fizzled out towards the end. You can just keep going down the list. That being said, I'm going to go with Xander Schauffele. That would also mean I believe he's going to win the FedEx Cup this week. Look, at the end of the day, I just want to look at it. He's plus 240. Okay, those are pretty good odds. And since we're just going off of odds because it's gambling, I feel like that's the best bet. That really is, in my opinion.
So who's your gross winner?
Oh, you want that too?
Yeah, we'll do both.
Without aggregate, I'm going to go with Sam Burns because he puts it so well. Okay.
So where I'm at with this, and I agree with you with the odds. Scottie's actually been boosted to plus 110, so you have decent odds there actually.
Well, I thought it's minus.
Vegas is legitimately giving you the say of, all right, it's a 2-horse race, because in the history of the aggregate scoring, 3 of the 5 winners have started in either the 1 or the 2 spot. The other 2 started in 9th and 10th. So it's like, all right, what do you do from there? I'm totally discounting Hideki at 12-1. Rory is always a threat, and I actually thought about picking Rory this week, but I'm also a man of narratives, and Rory won in 16. He lost in 17-18. He won in 19, lost in 2021, won in 22, which means right now I will take Rory McIlroy at next FedEx Cup Tour Championship final. This year I will not, but doesn't mean he won't finish well at all. Oberg has been a interesting case study in the majors. He was really good in the first half, but hasn't really been the same in the second. And between Morikawa, Bradley, Wyndham Clark, I'm totally unfazed with. Morikawa has been so consistent and hasn't been playing bad, but he just can't hit the putts when it matters the most. The 4 guys I think that have a shot here is really Scheffler, Xander, McIlroy, Cantlay, and like Victor Hovland as the incumbent champion, knows how to play the course well. But my aggregate winner is going to be Xander Schauffele. Second half of the year, he has simply been better than Scottie Scheffler, which is saying a lot considering the first half was dominated by Scottie. A lot of guys have said that the past 2 weeks when asked, would you rather have Scottie's year or Xander's year? They're all kind of like, I mean, 2 majors for Xander, you kind of got to give it to him there. Xander Schauffele's been so freaking good the last 5 weeks, and the course fits were not the best for him the last 2 weeks. They're not the greatest for his game. This is a golf course, though, that when he won in 2017, he dominated the field, and that was without the aggregate. You give him an opportunity now to start at 8 under par. Even if you give him the 12 strokes that he won at in 2017, that's 20 under par. That's where most winners have been. So I really do like Xander. It's going to come down to a foot race with him and Scotty. Because Scotty does not drop shots. That's the one thing we all know and love about Scotty Scheffler. So I'm going to ride with Xander. On the aggregate, though, and again, this is where I think things matter. If Scotty wins this week, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be because he completely matched Xander, and it's going to be a 1-2 stroke. Xander Schauffele is going to also win on the gross. He will make more birdies than anybody else, but if Scotty beats him, it'll be by 1 or 2 strokes, solely thanks to the aggregate. That's how I see this bad boy playing out for the week. Another year in the books, Ben.
Another year in the books. We're still working together. You haven't fired me yet. KB hasn't fired me yet. It's a beautiful thing.
You haven't technically fired me as your interim need-be caddy yet. So
fuck up with that. I was waiting. I think when you said you technically have, I was like, I already know what this fucking guy's gonna say. You are unbelievable. You're right. I technically haven't. So
I appreciate you.
Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
No problem.
Folks, that's been episode, Ben, wait for this, 169, hashtag
nice.
Episode of the Get in the Hole podcast. For Ben Pirro, I'm Steve McAvoy. Be sure to follow us on all socials at Get in the Hole Pod, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, as well as on YouTube at Underground Sports PHI, the entire family of Underground Sports Philadelphia podcasts, including our friends over at F1 out in soccer, in lacrosse, and of course our main pod, Underground Sports Philadelphia. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave comments here with us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Again, for Ben Pirro, I'm Steve McAvoy. Enjoy the golf this week at the Tour Final. We'll see you next week as we prepare for the President's Cup and the FedEx Fall. Lots of stuff to still be had. The golf season might be over technically, but we're only back in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time, and remember, get in the hole!